Okay, this is a section again from the Urantia book. This section is titled At Caesarea. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to jump ahead to the section where a young man requested Jesus to tell him the difference between the will of God and that human mind act of choosing, which is also called will. One second. Okay. In substance, Jesus said, "The will of God is the way of God. Partnership with the choice of God in the face of any potential alternative. To do the will of God, therefore, is the progressive experience of becoming more and more like God. And God is the source and destiny of all that is good and beautiful and true. The will of man is the way of man, the sum and substance of that which the mortal chooses to be and do. Will is the deliberate choice of a self-conscious being, which leads to decision, conduct, based on intelligent reflection." And it goes on to say that Jesus and Ganid, who we consider his student, had been playing with an intelligent shepherd dog. And Ganid asked Jesus, he asked Jesus if the dog had a soul or it had a will. And Jesus said, "The dog has a mind which can know material man, his master, but cannot know God, who is spirit. Therefore, the dog does not possess a spiritual nature and cannot enjoy a spiritual experience. The dog may have a will derived from nature and augmented by training, but such a power of mind is not a spiritual force, neither is it comparable to the human will. Inasmuch as it is not reflective, it is not the result of discriminating higher and moral meanings, or choosing spiritual and eternal values. It is the possession of such powers of spiritual discrimination and truth choosing that makes mortal man a moral being, a creature endowed with the attributes of spiritual responsibility and the potential of eternal survival." Jesus went on to explain that it is the absence of such mental powers in the animal which makes it forever impossible for the animal world to develop language in time or to experience anything equivalent to personality survival in eternity. As a result of this day's instruction, Ganid never again entertained belief in the transmigration of the souls of men into the bodies of animals, which is an idea in certain cultures of the world. The next day, Ganid talked all this over with his father, and it was an answer to Gonad's question that Jesus explained that human wills, which are fully occupied with passing only upon temporal decisions having to do with the material problems of animal existence, are doomed to perish in time. Those who make wholehearted moral decisions and unqualified spiritual choices are thus progressively identified with the indwelling and divine spirit, and thereby are they increasingly transformed into the values of eternal survival, unending progression of divine service. It was on this same day that we first heard that momentous truth which, stated in modern terms, would signify: will is that manifestation of the human mind which enables the subjective consciousness to express itself objectively and to experience the phenomenon of aspiring to be godlike. And it is in this same sense that every reflective and spiritually minded human being can become creative. I'm going to give a little bit of my understanding here, because this does point to the possibility that not every aspect in a human vessel will become a solid personality, which goes on to progress time after time after time into the soul's journey. Okay. There's a lot of gray area there. There are a lot of things that are mentioned in this book that I am not able to fully comprehend at this point. But, and I have heard it through different channels that, sometimes there are vessels here. We see them as people. They have their bodies, but that they're kind of on autopilot, and they're put there as almost to hold the space. And so they're not necessarily a soul on a soul's journey. They could just be holding space for someone who has already graduated, so to speak, and was able to level up and move on to some other experience. It could also be that someone, and I don't know that this is true, but I suppose it is possible that an aspect or a soul or a fraction of a soul could come down into a body and could be so distracted by the workings of the material realm that they do not seek God on any level. And I guess that would then put them into the classification of like animals who are not able to have a spiritual experience. And I guess what we have to understand is there are all these things that we just may not be able to comprehend at this point in our evolution, what we're able to comprehend in our human form. But that if you are such a one who does not have a desire to seek God, you're not going to be watching this video, most likely. If you are such a one who doesn't have any greater spiritual presence than the earthly material plane, where you're just going about your day to day, push your button at your job, or whatever you do, and seek nothing greater, deeper than that, you're going to be just fine and happy with going back to where you came from and not moving on to the next stage. And so there's no harm in this, and it's not a bad thing. It just is that some of us are here on a soul's journey, and some of us aren't. Some of us are here just to hold space. Those, we still treat everyone with kindness and love. Even if they're here to hold space, they're still here to hold space, and that's doing a service to all the rest of us. And so, we still remain loving, and we still act from that place of love, no matter who it is that is in front of us. This is the real challenge, is to remember yourself as love constantly, and to give it no matter what it is that you are receiving in that moment. And I've said this, to people different times, that if someone is being cruel to you, the last thing we want to do is to become cruel. We need to make sure that we are maintaining the space of love. We are maintaining the frequency of love to the best of our ability, no matter what is coming at us. Because, you know, Christ taught us that it's easy to love people who are being kind to you. You know, it's easy to love people who are being kind to you. Can you remain love? Can you remain loving with those who are not? And on a deeper level, those people, circumstances, however, that present themselves, that feel unloving, are there to give you the opportunity to remember yourself as love. And so when you get to a place where, and you know, we all slip up on that when stress occurs, and you know, and we become reactive, or there's a lot of noise and disruption around us, those of us with small children, you know, there will be times when we will forget ourselves. And hopefully we have someone else who is in our life who is kind and loving and can say, hey, heads up, you know, be mindful of what's going on here. And hopefully they can assist us in bringing us back to the remembrance of who we are, because that is loving. And that was a bit of a digression, I'm sorry. But anyway, so I thought that was interesting, and that it was important to mention that, because not everyone is on the soul's journey, you know, and not everyone wants to be on the soul's journey. So I'm going to leave that here for now. That was interesting, and I'll be back with more later.